Welcome to China's northernmost corner, and welcome to China's easternmost corner. In other words, welcome to Heilongjiang, the province of the Black Dragon River. That's literally what the name means. Everything north and east of the province is Russian, which wasn't the case for most of history. Intrigued? Should be. This is an interesting place. Hi, my name is Sebastian. You're watching 7 Facts. So, we already established that Heilongjiang lies at one of China's extremities, and this is the perfect opportunity to establish just how big of a country China is. To get from Mohe City, the northernmost Chinese urban center, to somewhere in Akto County, China's westernmost point, you would need to drive 6,254 kilometers. That's the equivalent of driving from Budapest to London, then from London to Istanbul, and then from Istanbul to Moscow. Anyway, Heilongjiang isn't just a corner of China, it's one of the biggest provinces too. About as big as Sweden and with a population of nearly 32 million. These people are, however, pretty far from the bustling financial centers we're accustomed to. This is a province of agriculture and industry. If you ever ate Chinese rice, corn, or soybeans, chances are they came from here. There's also plenty of coal, oil, and lumber, but all this doesn't necessarily translate into prosperity. Heilongjiang is still struggling economically, having the second lowest GDP per capita in the country. But there's a lot more to this province than money and numbers. We are, after all, in the famous region of Manchuria. So I think it's time we focus a bit on the history of Heilongjiang. In ancient times, the first people that inhabited Heilongjiang were not the Han Chinese. Nations like the Sushan, Buyeo, Mohe, Khitan or Donggu, related to Mongol, Korean or the Manchu, inhabited these lands and formed their own kingdoms and federations. Slowly though, the ancient Chinese dynasties like the Liao or the Jin became the rulers of much of North China. As a province, Heilongjiang arose in 1683, ruled by a military governor, a Jiangjun, cognate with the Japanese shogun. In this period, areas so deep in Manchuria were still closed off to Han Chinese migration. It was at this time, under the rule of Emperor Kangxi of the Manchu descent Qing dynasty, that Russian troops repeatedly attacked the outer edges of China. At that time, the Russians were defeated, but they never gave up. Following the Second Opium War in the 19th century, the Qing government was forced to sign the Treaty of Aigun and the Treaty of Beijing. China ceded 1 million square kilometers to Russia, everything north of Heilong River, or the Amur as the Russians call it, and everything east of the Ussuri River, thus cutting off the empire from the Sea of Japan. At the same time, Manchuria was open to Han Chinese migration, and in less than a century, the Han Chinese became the dominant ethnic group. This happened because there was a great need for peasants to cultivate these lands, but as a result, the Manchus became a minority. In 1931, on September 18th, Japan invaded Manchuria and established a puppet state, the Great Manchu Empire, or Manchukuo. Japan also looted these lands and created research and military institutions, the most infamous being the much-feared Unit 731. But we'll get into the details in a minute. Today, the capital city of Heilongjiang is Harbin. With 5.8 million residents and another 4 million living in the suburbs, Harbin is one of the largest cities in northeast China and also one of the largest urban areas in the world. The actual city was founded in 1898 with the coming of the Chinese Eastern Railway, but in those days it was inhabited mostly by immigrants from the Russian Empire. That legacy is still evident in the European architecture still found in the old town. While it is a top destination within China, do check the weather before you go. Harbin is known for its long and bitterly cold winters. If you're well prepared, it is worth a visit. Harbin is home to a unique blend of Han, Manchu, and Russian cultures, something you won't encounter anywhere else outside Heilongjiang. Nicknamed the Ice City, Harbin is also a magical place during winter thanks to the many ice sculptures that decorate it. So how cold is Harbin anyway? Well, on average daily temperatures in the winter hover around -20 degrees Celsius, and that's the average. But even such a harsh environment can be taken advantage of. The International Ice and Snow Sculpture Festival has been held in Harbin since 1985, and for months you can enjoy a magical landscape of enormous snow and ice sculptures. An especially lovely exhibit is the Ice and Snow World, where full-size buildings made from crystal-clear ice blocks are illuminated. Every year, it takes about 15,000 workers and ice artisans to create these amazing creations. Pity they all melt come summer. So as I already said, when in Heilongjiang, you're deep inside Manchuria. But just what is this place? Well, Manchuria is a historical and geographic region that includes northeast China and parts of the Russian Far East. The name comes from the Japanese Manchu, the region of the Manchus, a Tungusic people native to these lands. This term, however, was never used by China or the Manchus for that matter. It is, however, an important homeland for many ethnic groups besides the Manchus, such as the Mongols, Koreans, and possibly Turkic and Han Chinese. Today, however, Manchuria is a controversial name. You see, during World War II, the Japanese set up a puppet state here, Manchukuo, under the leadership of the former Chinese Emperor Puyi of the Manchu descent Qing dynasty. Manchukuo was established after the Japanese invasion of 1931, but also with the help of Manchu nationalists, hence the controversy. While it was declared an independent state, it was anything but. In fact, the state was brutally run with a systematic campaign of terror and intimidation under Japanese control. Manchukuo was also used by Japan to launch further invasions into China, and its resources were used to fuel the Japanese war machine. This was no independent country, it was full-on part of the Japanese Empire. Manchukuo disappeared in 1945, but the legacy of those times remained to this day. So, once upon a time, Harbin was an international city designed by European architects and inhabited by Russians, Jews, Poles, Georgians, Chinese, and many other nationalities. While those times are over, a lot of the architecture remains. Perhaps no other building showcases the city's European past as well as the St. Sophia Cathedral. Built in 1907, the cathedral is a monumental work created to serve the Orthodox Christians that used to live in Harbin. The architecture is exemplary and reminiscent of Moscow's Red Square. After communism took over in China, the cathedral was closed and forgotten. In 1996, a newspaper prompted for donations to restore the church, and an amazing $1.5 million were gathered. It was restored to its former glory and is now a museum. By the way, the name Saint Sophia refers to Hagia Sophia, the former Orthodox Cathedral of Constantinople, whose name means Holy Wisdom in Greek. There's one more thing I have to mention about the legacy of Manchukuo and its Japanese rule. The infamous Unit 731 of the Imperial Army of Japan was based in Heilongjiang. It was officially known as the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department of the Kwangtung Army. In reality, it was a covert biological and chemical warfare research and development unit. They engaged in some of the most horrific experiments ever conducted in history. Prisoners were injected with diseases and deliberately infected with syphilis or gonorrhea, then left untreated for study. Thousands of men, women, children, and infants were subjected to vivisections without anesthesia. Organs were taken out or limbs amputated to study blood loss. Sometimes limbs were reattached to the opposite side to see what happens. Human targets were used to test grenades, flamethrowers, bayonets, and other weapons. In other tests, subjects were placed into low-pressure chambers until their eyes popped from their sockets. And all of this is just the tip of the iceberg. Over 3,000 people died in Unit 731's experiments, with a further 7,000 dying as their prisoners. There are no documented survivors. And an additional 300,000 people died as a result of the biological and chemical weapons developed by the same unit. And that was all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you leave. Leave your comments downstairs, and if you wish to do so, you can help out this channel through my Patreon page. I do hope to see you next time. Bye.